I just finished watching season 1 of Dark Matter on Apple TV for the second time. So, spoiler warning for anyone who hasn't seen it and is interested in it. This isn't going to be a review or anything like that. However, I did want to give my thoughts on life after watching, or even while watching, Dark Matter. I've always been the type of person who's always been interested in spiritual concepts, philosophical concepts. When I was younger, like a lot of religious, psychological, scientific, intellectual, poetic, those type of concepts, those type of subjects. And I'm not a huge TV watcher. However, whenever I do watch a show or watch TV, the type of things that I am drawn to are more of the sci-fi-ish type things, more of the psychological, suspenseful, thriller type of genres of movies or shows. Dark Matter is one of those type of shows that as you're watching it, and once you finish watching it, you can never go back to the way you looked at life. I'm sure anyone who's watching this, who's watched the show, more than likely will agree how profound that this show was, how profound of effect that it can have on one's life. The main character, Jason, he's in his regular world. He's going through his normal life. He has a wife and a son. One night, after leaving the bar from celebrating one of his friend's recent achievements, he recently won a prestigious award. He's kidnapped. He's at gunpoint. He's taken to a seemingly vacant building on another side of town, and in the basement with a masked man. The guy seems to know things about him. He takes his phone, even knows the guy's passcode, and inserts what seems to be some type of drug inside of the guy, the main character. He puts him inside of a box. The next thing you know, the guy wakes up out of a coma or dreamlike state, whatever the case may be. The guy wakes up. He's in a bed surrounded by some people who he doesn't know, but these people seem to know him. Fast forward, we come to find out the main character was kidnapped by an alternate version of himself, and that alternate version swapped lives with him. So in his world, the alternate version's world, he was hugely successful. He had received the award that his friend in the other universe had received. He started a company. He was wealthy. He didn't have a wife or son, but he did have a girlfriend. And he was rich, wealthy, all the type of things that you would think people would want out of life. However, he had grown tired, and he had made one decision in his life, the one where he made to not have a child with his girlfriend when she was pregnant. So she got rid of the child. They broke up. He went on another path and stayed consistent with his studies, and he became wildly successful. However, he woke up one day and he was bored of that. He wondered, what if? Now, he had created a box that allowed him to be able to go into alternate versions of his life. So this is like a quantum theory, quantum physics type of show, right? Or quantum concepts, if you will. He found that life where he had a wife and he had a son, and he wanted to live that life. That's why he kidnapped him, right? And he assumed that the guy he kidnapped, or the version of himself that he kidnapped, would actually like that life. From then on, the chaos just begins to pile up. Now, I want to stop right there. So the concept of quantum theory and quantum entanglement, concepts like Schrodinger's cat, these things always fascinated me. The law of attraction, shifting, quantum jumping, all of these type of concepts. They fascinate me to a level that I just can't quite explain. I'm always wanting to become a better version of myself, always studying knowledge, always been a seeker of knowledge and wisdom and understanding, huge into personal development. Anyone interested in my other channel, it's Khalil Gerard. You can search me. I'm over there, and I have way more videos over there. This channel, I just want to be able to discuss things that I really want to discuss, and it doesn't necessarily have to be on the same type of concepts. Certain things like this, stream of consciousness, if you will. But nonetheless, getting back to what I was discussing. So with the box that he created, along with this liquid formula a friend of his had created called Lavender Fairy, he was able to go into different realities, go into different worlds, right? Once he goes into the box, it's just a regular box with one door. But then when he takes the Lavender Fairy, it puts his mind in what they call, I believe, superposition. And all of a sudden, this infinite corridor just appears. And in this infinite corridor, it's an infinite amount of doors that he can go into. And again, it's infinite realities. It's all infinite realities of him or whoever is in the box. When I think about it, I think about, like, in your life, you have infinite choices that you can make all through your life on an everyday basis. When you get up, you could choose to hit snooze, or you could choose to get up immediately. You could choose what time you want to get up, and so forth, so on, what you want to eat, if you're going to eat. And if you think about your life, where you currently are right now, the reality that you're currently living in right now is a result of all of the choices that you've chose to make or chose not to make. And if you choose to change one thing in your past, that essentially would change everything in your present, because it's a domino effect, right? Once you hit the domino, it just keeps on going. Everything else shifts right there. And the simplest thing, you know, if you ever heard the term butterfly effect or seen the movie Butterfly Effect, right? It goes into that type of concept. Or if you've ever watched the show on Netflix called Dark, which is one of my most absolute favorite shows that goes into time traveling and different things like that, similar concepts. They even mentioned Schrodinger's cat in that show as well. I would recommend that as well. If you look at your life, if you take that concept, if you look at it that perspective, that also means that going forward, there's infinite realities, there's infinite choices that you can make. Someone who may be overweight, if they continue to eat the way that they continue to eat, the weight is going to stay the same, and inevitably whatever type of health concerns or health conditions that can arise from it will eventually arise, and they'll meet their demise from that. Whether it's drinking, smoking, whatever type of habits that you have, whatever type of lifestyle that you have, there will be an eventual end to it, for better or for worse. And with this corridor of boxes, I viewed it as the box being a metaphor for your head, and each of these doors was a metaphor for thoughts, for your decisions, for a frequency, if you will, that you decide to go into or maintain or resonate and vibrate at. When the alternate version went through the box, he had already mastered the box. He had already understood that you have to be clear about the type of reality that you want to be in. You have to know exactly, your emotions and your mind have to be aligned. They have to be clear. And if you want it to be a positive one, you have to think that way. You have to feel that way. So he was able to jump into whatever reality he wanted to jump in. The main character, when he escaped into the box with Amanda, they had went through different doors and different realities, and not all of these doors, all of these realities were pretty, right? And going through some of these doors had certain consequences, and a lot of those consequences were dire consequences, right? And each time they went, he was trying to get back home to his son and his wife, but he couldn't quite understand how to get there, right? He didn't understand, like, why couldn't he get there? And as they learned through the different realities they experienced, it was correlated with the thoughts that they were having, the feelings that they were having. So eventually Amanda would go into another world that was perfect for her. They were running out of ampules, I believe they were called. The ampules were like the vials with the lavender fairy. And that lavender fairy they would inject that in themselves. So they started off with a limited amount of those, right? And eventually he was left up to one vial or ampule, and he finally mastered his thoughts and his emotions, and he was able to get back to that world where his family was, right? His rightful world. I looked at that as a metaphor as whatever world that you want to live in, whatever life that you want to experience, it exists somewhere. All of this stuff is connected. Again, we're talking about the quantum world. We're talking about alternate realities. A lot of people, they may not be into this type of stuff. They're in the box that they're in, and that's totally fine. I'm not here to judge. But for those people who are seeking to change their lives, you got to understand it starts with changing your thoughts, with changing your mind. In fact, it starts with controlling that, understanding your emotions, understanding your thoughts. You aren't your thoughts and your emotions. However, those two things control the reality that you experience. You as the entity behind the thoughts, behind the feelings, you are a passenger in this vehicle, and your thoughts and your feelings are tools that allow you to be able to travel in this vehicle, this body of yours, into different worlds, into different realities. And if you want to experience the life that you want to experience, you have to understand this very clearly. Just like those ampules were running out on him and he had to finally grasp that to get to the world he wants to live in, look at those ampules as time. Look at those ampules as days. Your days are already numbered. There will come an end to your time. And do you want your time to end with you being in a life and a world that you've created with your thoughts and with your feelings that you regret? Really think about that for a moment. I would recommend you guys go check out that show. And if you haven't already, or if you have already, rewatch it again and rewatch it with the understanding that you've gained from this video, from that perspective. Hell, you may have already had an even higher perspective that you viewed it from, and I'm interested in hearing that too. You can leave that in a comment. Let's have that conversation. If you guys have any recommendations for similar shows that's similar in nature, let me know in the comments and let's have a conversation. Let's discuss these things. I'm Khalil Gerard. I appreciate you taking the time to hear my thoughts today. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts in a comment. Till next time, you guys be safe. Safe travels. Peace.